Moobys tenemos el placer de contar con Harry Lloyd, actor conocido por sus papeles en La teoría del todo, La dama de hierro y especialmente por dar vida a Viserys Targaryen en Juego de Tronos. Y ahora vuelve a televisión en el reparto de Un mundo feliz, la adaptación de la novela homónima de Aldous Huxley que se estrena en España el domingo 4 de octubre de la mano de STARZplay. Good afternoon, Harry. Thanks for taking the time today to be here with us. First of all, congratulations on the TV series. We have been able to see the first few episodes, and I have to say they all look really promising.
Oh, great. Oh, that's great.
Congratulations for that. I wanted to start asking you about how were you first approached to be part of the project, and how were your first reaction when you knew you got the role?
Okay, so the first reaction when I got the role, I was thrilled, 100%. Ever since I read the first 2 episodes beginning of last year, and I thought, yes, definitely, straight away, this is something I want to be involved in. Which part do they want me to see for? Bernard, great. I'd play almost anyone. I was really in for it, but I didn't know the book, so I didn't know how much was taken from the book or how much was modern. I just thought they've done a really clever thing. And I liked the satirical tone of it. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek. It was very serious and philosophical and action-y, but it was funny and it was kind of silly. And I just thought that was really unique. And then I went and read the book and realized, wow, it's so ahead of its time and brilliant. But they've also managed to add some other modern things and like the eyepieces and find a really clever way of making this quite cold, short book into a long-form, emotional character story. So it was very easy for me to just be 100% yes, and worked very hard to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Because you've also have been in lots of different book adaptations during your career. You've been in The Theory of Everything, The Wife, Game of Thrones, and now Brave New World. Yeah. So do you approach your work as an actor in a different way when you know there is a previous material to the script?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, I guess the best thing about a book is that once you read the script and you're like, okay, where do I begin? How do I prepare this? And sometimes it's not quite clear what to do. Well, if there's a book, it's easy. Go and read the book. And like that's where you're going to start. And sometimes you'll end up throwing it away after you've read it and be like, okay, that's good, but that's not helpful. But at least it then gives you something to react against, at the very least. With this character, I found the book super helpful to understand the world and the specifics of the rules and the kind of philosophy. But in terms of the character of Bernard and how he functioned and his internal kind of processes, it wasn't so interested in that. So again, I kind of found what I could from the book and then kind of left it behind, because even in this first series, we do go deeper and beyond the book. But it was a really useful kind of foundation.
Of course, for something as big as Brave New World, there will be lots of fans and readers with big expectations about this adaptation. Would you say that the series is true to the book, or it follows its own different path?
Annoyingly, I'd say both. I think it is true to the book. I think it keeps the details of the social structure, the alphas, the betas, the rules, and how society has been organized to keep the social body healthy and stable. But so the philosophy, the feeling and the tone and the slightly satirical tongue-in-cheek tone behind it, is I think very similar. But the thing that's different is the actual narrative. I think that we take the same ingredients, the same characters, but allow it to be an emotionally led, character-led story. So it starts in a similar place, and the overall architecture of the story is kind of similar. But it goes deeper and it goes kind of further, and it allows these characters to behave quite humanly, even within their very specific circumstances and genetic alteration, to allow them to be human. These people aren't aliens just because they live in this different society and just because their embryos have been slightly, altered at birth. They still have needs and feelings, even though they may not be aware of those feelings or just becoming aware of them. They're human beings. And we get into more of the psychology, I think, of it, and the strangeness of how people react when they're put into extraordinary situations. So I feel that we went a bit further into that than the book.
Yeah, because obviously the language in a TV series is a completely different language from a movie, from the book, from a comic book or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a different process to go through, I guess.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And what would you say to those people, maybe more true to the book or to the original material in this case, to convince them to give the series a try?
Because I think it doesn't steal from the book and then walk all over it. It's interested in the book. It needs the book. The book is an extraordinary piece of writing to have been written in 1932. But it doesn't quite fit the format, first of all, for a 9-hour first season of TV. So it definitely needed some more material. But the material is not just extraneously brought in from random places that we're interested in. It all comes from the book. It's just extrapolated. It's just expanded somewhat. It's intensified. So I think for the purists, I don't think they'll be disappointed. I think the tone will be something that they recognize. And I think that they've done such an extraordinary job just visually in this world, which is, expensive and huge. It's, nothing. You can't shoot anything plainly. These countries and societies don't exist at all. So everything is brand new. I think they realized it incredibly well. And they could so easily have messed that up. And if the costumes just don't look right or the hair is just too weird, straight away the audience is like, it just puts you off. Mm-hmm. So I think they did brilliantly to kind of give you a look. And you can see from the trailer, you're like, okay, I'd like to spend some time in that one. Oh, what's that? It's very involving. And I think if you did a very literal adaptation of the book, first of all, it would be quite short. And also it wouldn't be narratively satisfying. It wouldn't work on TV or for a movie particularly. It would be like quite an interesting lecture from a really crazy but brilliant, professor. And I think ours is an emotional journey.
Yeah, because I was also going to ask you, like, the original novel, as you said before, it was released in 1932, but still, ever since, there hasn't been like many attempts to adapt the story to the screen.
No, there's not been a lot.
I think it might be like a relevant time to do it right now instead of any other time before.
Yeah, I think the reason why this works and is not simply because of the time in which it's made, but because a lot of smart people, especially David Weiner, found a really unique and brilliant way of taking this complex, difficult subject matter, which is kind of inherently tricky to adapt, and found a very smart way of making it feel like a natural story and not forcing it into places it didn't want to go. So I think that, people like David is the reason why it kind of works. And obviously we filmed it last year and the world changed completely this year. But I think it is an interesting time to watch any show about society and about how people are governed, and to see a futuristic version. But what happens if we did it like that? Well, that wouldn't work. Well, that would work. I mean, we're thinking now about something's got to change. We hope that the way in which we govern ourselves and will be governed in the future is shifting. And people want a change. So actually, at least to kind of start a conversation about, what are the things that we need? How could we be stable? We just want to do something differently that we're doing now. Obviously, Brave New World is not the answer, and it's a TV show. But I think it's a conversation that people are having anyway. And it's, it will. I would have thought it would tap into that.
Because you were also talking about like the minds behind the creation of the project, and obviously Grant Morrison and Brian Taylor are involved in all of this. So do you think maybe having them in the series has brought also more of like the comic book world into the series?
Well, that's why it was a great marriage between all the creators, because you've got people from different backgrounds. You've got comic people, and you've got graphic novel stuff, and you've got people who worked in TV. You've got Amblin Entertainment, who develop all of Spielberg stuff. You've got all of NBC and Peacock, which is their new streaming thing. So they've got a lot of very experienced, high-end, American kind of producers and developers who've been, putting this together for a long time. And then I think once David Weiner got involved, that's when suddenly it clicked and things coalesced and it became real. And and you've got Industrial Light and Magic doing the special effects, who are like the huge VFX. We did all of Star Wars, and it was just, you can see it, even when we were filming it, you could see the stuff that they were doing. So it was, you're playing with all the top Hollywood people. And yet it's this very strange, unique story full of British people. It was an interesting marriage.
Yeah. So for us in Europe, the series is going to be released this week, but in different parts of the world, but people has already had the chance to watch the first season. So how were those first reviews from the people, and how did you react it and the team to those reviews?
Yeah, I haven't actually been reading the kind of the reviews, but from what I can tell, people have really loved it. It did great on Peacock, which is it's the new NBC kind of Netflix. It's their streaming platform where it's on in America. Yeah, it was one of their most watched shows for this brand new show that people hadn't heard of, compared to all the content they've got on. They've got The American Office and all kinds of very famous shows that people are watching all the time. So I think it's been really positive. And people, I think, who read the book and loved it have been surprised at how fun it is. Because I think in America especially, it was a book that everyone had to read at high school. So people didn't choose to read it. So some people loved it and you had a nice English teacher, or some people hated it because I had to read it and write an essay on it, and I was 15 and what do I care? So for those guys who might have heard it and be curious, the thing to remember, I would say, is that our series from the get-go, it's a lot funnier than it should be. And it's quite silly. And just to see a society when everyone's happy, there's something just very surreal and kind of ludicrous about it from the start. And I just think that is a really interesting tone for something on such a grand scale, to still have that silliness. I think that makes it really easy to watch something that's actually got lots of prickly stuff in it. But, it's a pill that you can swallow. How appropriate.
So now, with everything changing in 2020, how do you face the future in your career? Are you working on any new projects, or how is it? Like, is it very different for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super lucky, I guess, because I've got a couple of little things. I did an audiobook at the beginning of lockdown. Actually, you can see my little audiobook studio. That's in there. That's where I record my stuff, surrounded by duvets. And I'm doing another one at the moment. There's an animation project. So there's been stuff that I've been able to do. I was about to open a play in March, and 2 days before we opened, the theatres got closed. So we're trying to see when we can get that back up. And hopefully again next year, season 2, hopefully. So there's a bit of stuff, but at the moment, every script you get sent, on the whole, it's like, well, this is not active yet, or it's on hold, or it just feels like at the moment we're back into slightly liquid territory where no one quite can make any decisions. But yeah, I mean, everyone is doing extraordinary things to keep industries like theatre and entertainment alive, and there are things you can do, and it's going to be different for a while, possibly forever. So it's a huge adaptation. But actors, I think, are fairly resourceful, and will find other ways to be employed. Our job is to read out loud and, do the stuff that no one else wants to do. So yeah, and these days with video games, with immersive stuff, there's lots of, voiceovers for documentaries. I'm interested in all the different things that an actor can do. I'd love to get back on stage and on a film set soon, but until then, I'm keeping busy.
Yeah, there's always new ways to adapt and to, as you were going to carry on. So, well, I think this is all the time we have for today. So thank you very much again for the time you've given us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy our new show, Brave New World. Cheers. Thanks, man.